Welcome to another episode of our personal empowerment audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder. And our program today is about that other world we live in some of the time. We live in the world we call reality with our eyes open, but there's a very different world we go to when we close our eyes. There's some magic that happens when we close our eyes. It's not hocus pocus, it's actually relaxation and focus. We move into a very powerful state whenever we exercise this closed eye process.
Yeah, this is the best way there is to pay attention. Now, sometimes we have to focus our attention to concentrate with our eyes open, like in sports, for example. But, there are some things like music. One of the great skills of piano players and guitar players is to practice with their eyes closed because, well, number one, it trains your ability to play the instrument without relying on the eyes. But more importantly, and this is the point of our program today, the state of mind, the level of awareness that you go into when you reduce external stimulus reaching the brain by simply ignoring it with closed eyes. When you close your eyes, brain activity is reduced by 85% according to a lot of recent studies. That frees up all of this awareness, or brain cells, if you will, to do other things like focus your attention, pay attention. That's an odd phrase, to pay attention, but you know what we're talking about. To concentrate, well, that's much easier to do when your eyes are closed.
Yeah, because most of the time, you're spending with your eyes open and you're doing stuff. You're looking and you're leering and you're glaring and you're glancing and you're glimpsing and your eyes are doing all kinds of different things. And of all the stuff that's coming in through all your five senses, most of it's visual. 86% of all the input that comes in through the five senses is visual. So you got mostly pictures of looking at what you're looking at, and then it's what you're hearing and what you're smelling and tasting and sensing, in terms of all kinds of visceral sensations and kinesthetic sensations. They're all mixed in, but that's so powerful because when your eyes are open, essentially you are focused out there. But the moment you close your eyes, everything changes because now all of a sudden your attention is not out there, it's in here. It's inside of yourself. You said a bunch of things to your brain when you close your eyes. You said, stop paying attention out there and start paying attention in here. You've also said, I'm safe. I don't have to worry about any danger out there coming at me. If I must be safe so I can close my eyes and not have to worry about that stuff out there. And you've said to your brain, let's move towards sleep. That's really very significant. Anytime you close your eyes, the first signal your brain gets is like, move away from stress. Let's do what we do when we close our eyes. Let's go to sleep. Let's move towards sleep. So instantly upon closing your eyes, brainwave activity goes down, and almost always just closing your eyes is enough to take you out of that divided attention beta brainwave state into the focused concentration of the alpha state. Unless, of course, you're coming from super high stress, then it takes more than just closing your eyes. But if you're in your normal amount of stress, just closing your eyes is often enough to take you away from paying attention out there and to bring you into paying attention in here.
You bet. The metaphor, the allegory, or the parallel that I use still to this day, I've used it all of my life, the 35 or 40 years that I've been practicing meditation and contemplation and self-hypnosis and biofeedback. We're going to talk about some of the variations of the closed eye process in our program today. But I've always thought when I close my eyes and relax, it's sort of like adjusting the end of the flashlight. I mentioned this a few weeks ago. It's just burned into my brain that when I close my eyes, reducing, as you just explained, the stimulus, freeing up my mind and my brain to pay attention, to focus. It's like going from floodlight to spotlight and then to laser beam. Now, the advantage of a floodlight is you cover a greater area, but the light is a lot weaker.
And it's wide awake, very wide awake.
That's very good, because you're the fellow that coined the term narrow awake. Those of you listening hundreds of years in the future to these programs, Steve Snyder invented narrow awake. It's part of the vocabulary now. Everybody knows narrow awake. But back here, way back here in 2011... That's Steve's. Yeah, I think that's brilliant. And, of course, the spotlight is more intense and brighter, although it covers a smaller area. And, my goodness, a A laser beam, well, you can cut through steel with a laser beam.
Or shine a light on the moon.
Yeah. It's coherent light, they call it, basically parallel light. So that a laser beam that may be 1/8 of an inch wide by the time it gets to the moon is only about 1 inch wide. That's pretty parallel. That's pretty focused. So if we could cut steel with light, imagine what you can do mentally and emotionally, and I would say as well spiritually, with your mind and your heart when it's focused like a laser beam. That's one of the primary benefits of closing your eyes.
You know, whenever your eyes are open, there's something in your mind that says something unexpected could happen any moment now. There's this ego part that is in charge of your survival, in charge of protecting you, that's looking around and it's making judgments and it's trying to control things and it's seeing what's approved of and what's not. And there's always like this, I better keep my eyes open because something unexpected could happen. As soon as we close our eyes, we say to ourselves, nothing unexpected is going to happen now. I'm safe now. I'm okay with wherever in physical space I am. Usually we're not standing up when we close our eyes. I mean, usually when we close our eyes for an extended period of time, we're sitting down or laying down. But we, of course, close our eyes lots of times when we're standing up. But when we close our eyes, we're in a place where we're not worried about somebody bumping into us or something, being thrown at. We're just feeling safe now. So our brain says, shift gears, shift out of this fourth gear beta state, shift into this lower gear alpha where you're paying attention only one thing at a time, and unless there's real interest or passion, your mind just sort of floats from one thing to another thing to another, that daydreamy kind of state. And as soon as you get interested in one of the things that's floating by and you create focused passion, then you stay there and you start to explore that one thing that's all of a sudden very interesting or exciting or intriguing to you. So this state of one thing, that's what happens when you close your eyes. You move out of a state of 7 plus or minus 2 things where you're really paying attention to a whole bunch of stuff going on to one thing. And when you get one thing that you really like are interested in, one thing that you're really excited about, one thing that really grabs your curiosity, then that one thing becomes this state of focused passion. I remember a song from a long time ago, a group called Kansas, Dust in the Wind. I close my eyes only for a moment, and the moment's gone. All my dreams pass before my eyes in curiosity. So it's like when I live in the reality of out there, I'm responding and reacting to the stimulus of everything that's happening. But when I close my eyes, now I'm focused on my dreams, my imaginations, my creativity. I'm focused on things that are imaginary and memory and fantasy. I'm focused on a world that isn't the real world. It's my created world in my mind. And, of course, as we all know, we create the world in our mind and then manifest it in the real world.
This is really an ancient concept, too. In the New Testament, Christ says, I'm paraphrasing here, I'm not one to quote chapter and verse, but there's a lot of wisdom in there. And he says, essentially, when the eye becomes single, the body is filled with light. That's suggesting that there's something you're able to see if you could focus your attention when the eye becomes single. Well, in Eastern philosophy and yoga, you've got this idea of a sixth chakra, the Ajna center, that is the so-called third eye, the inner eye, not the evil eye. This is the inner eye.
The like in the middle of the forehead, pituitary gland eye.
Right. That's exactly the idea that when you close your physical eyes that are receptors of physical stimulus, as you said, from the external world, and this is a Western expression, the mind's eye, the imagination, your ability to visualize imagery comes awake. Now, you can visualize with your eyes open, but it's more challenging and, again, less intense, less
and more
powerful.
likely to be distracted.
Yeah, because your eyes are open
Right.
and you have all this stimulus. I mean, imagine. You said the number is 86%, and I thought it was in the 80s for sure, 80, 85, 86, somewhere. I think it depends on the individual, but that's way more than 3/4 of the stimulus that your brain has to deal with is visual. So obviously, then closing your eyes, whatever you call the process, and we'll talk about some of them today, whatever you call that process, closing your eyes focuses your attention. The mind's eye awakens. You're able to see what you otherwise had not seen before. We even have the archetypes of the light bulb popping on. Oh, I just got a great idea. I just saw this whole vision, this dream. And other versions of the light bulb include the dawning, that's a slower version, the dawning of a new idea, or you might be thunderstruck, hit by lightning, and just the Greeks called this eureka, the aha illumination, and there's the light again. There's something we can see with the third eye when you close, or the mind's eye, when you close those physical eyes. And again, we're talking about the thread that's running through at least a half a dozen different processes that we can name.
Yeah, when you close your eyes, you imagine things. Now, some people visualize, and others actually more conceptualize. An example you gave me a long time ago, I think, is imagine an umbrella. And so some people see an umbrella, other people don't, but regardless of whether or not you actually see the umbrella, you could tell a person whether it's open or closed. You could tell whether it's wet or dry. You don't need to visualize it to conceptualize it. You don't need to actually see the picture of it to know what it would look like if you were seeing the picture of it. And that's the way some people's minds work. I don't think there's any particular value in actually having the picture. If you could describe it, even though you don't actually see it, you know what it is, it's affecting your mind in much the same way. And some people are really good at imaginary smelling and imaginary tasting and imaginary hearing, and we all have our strengths and weaknesses in the way our minds imagine when our eyes are closed. But that our minds imagine much more readily, much more easily when our eyes are closed versus when they're open, because of the much less stimulus, because of the fact that the brain has this signal, I'm safe, I don't have to think about out there, I can go in here, I'm moving toward dreaming and sleep anyway, so I might as well start daydreaming on the way down to sleep. You know, every night of my life, I've had this process of I closed my eyes, I started daydreaming, I went down from daydreaming to dreaming, and then I fell asleep. So it's just sort of like it's the greased route, it's the way the mind goes. You close your eyes and then you start moving towards sleep. And when you start moving towards sleep, something really wonderful happens, and that is that the reticular activating system, that's this like filter kind of thing between the conscious and subconscious minds, which is like tightly closed when you're really in high stress states. The more you relax, the more it opens, and as you move into this really relaxed state, this filter opens a lot, and you gain access between the two minds. You see, when you're in a high stress state, you have the conscious mind, but you have difficulty accessing the subconscious with some of the stress. That's that tip of the tongue syndrome kind of stuff. And of course, when you're asleep, then the conscious mind's turned off and you only have the subconscious. So it's really only in a state in between stress and sleep, this alpha state, where this filter is open and you have access to both minds at the same time in both directions. Conscious into subconscious, subconscious out to conscious, and depending on which direction the communication is going is sort of like the name of the technique, the way the mind is working. But as soon as we close our eyes, other things start to happen. We move towards sleep. So our breathing gets deeper and more rhythmic, and our muscle tension releases and relaxes, and our confusion goes away, and our anxiety disappears, and we just get relaxed and calm and clear. And that's what happens whenever you close your eyes.
So this is really two messages of the conscious mind talking to the subconscious through this little channel you're talking about, the reticular activating system. It's called in some systems. This is a very simple and yet really important concept. Dwell on this a little bit. It's powerful and it can change your life, this simple concept. When in talking to yourself, conscious talking to subconscious or inner conscious or unconscious, whatever your favorite term for that other 90% that keeps working even when the conscious mind is asleep. When conscious talks to subconscious and we close our eyes and then we deliberately feel safe with some slow breathing and letting go of muscular tension, that's saying to the brain through the subconscious mind, you're safe enough to focus your attention. You don't need to be easily distracted because there's no danger. Look, my eyes are closed. Look at this relaxation. Muscles are loose. Obviously, I'm not in any danger. So now, higher brain functions come online because you've like opened the faucet. Think of the way lowering the resistance to the water coming from the pipe into the garden hose. You open the faucet, you're lowering the resistance. Here comes more water, a greater volume. Well, in the same way, doesn't it make sense that the creativity, the emotional sensitivity, the conceptual understanding, all the powers and abilities of the subconscious, when you close your eyes and relax and feel safe, you pay attention, right? Concentration is a relaxation skill, all right? You've lowered the resistance, you've opened the faucet, and whoosh, here comes all of this wonderful information flooding into your mind as if it were light.
I mean, because literally, as you relax out of the stress mode, more blood does go up into the more evolved human part of your brain. I mean, into the neocortex, into the most neo-mammalian part of the brain. So that part of the brain that isn't survival-oriented, but rather is sort of self-actualization-oriented, growing and getting better and becoming fulfilled-oriented, that part of the brain is getting more blood when you get into the relaxed state. Because, you know, the mind's clear that survival trumps self-improvement. We got to deal with survival if survival's an issue. But that's the thing that happens when we close our eyes. All of a sudden, survival's no longer an issue. Our survival is, in our minds, guaranteed until the next time we open our eyes. You know, we're not worried about anything happening because we feel safe enough to close our eyes. So survival is no longer an issue. That part of the brain can calm down, and all the energy can go into the other parts of the brain, which really, again, it moves in two directions. Once survival's handled, then we move into these two issues, two opportunities, two problems, two situations that human beings face. The two basic problems we face in the world, and that is, one is I know what I want, but I don't know how to get it, and the other is I don't know what I want. Those are the two basic things. And whatever it is about, you know, it's really about, if I don't know what I want, it's about that. It's about, you know, I feel aimless. I don't feel directed. I don't have a target. I seem to have, but there's an empty space somewhere. You know, I don't know what I want. That's a big problem. That's a huge problem for a lot of people. It's impossible to feel fulfilled if you don't feel like you know what you want. And then for a lot of other people, I know damn well what I want. I want this and I want that and I want all these. I just don't know how to get what I want. And that is another kind of problem. Well, those problems can get solved in this state better than any other state because the information can flow in whatever direction it needs to. You see, if the problem is I don't know what I want, then the information has to flow from the subconscious up to the conscious, because the only place the answer to the question, what do I really want, exists is in the subconscious. I mean, it's not a logical question. It's not like something you can like intellectually deduce what you want. If it was logical, everybody would want the same thing. It's purely an emotional question. What does your heart desire? What do you long for? Well, you know, that's not an intellectual pursuit at all. That's an emotional issue. So you have to ask your heart. You have to ask your heart mind, your subconscious mind, and so the information comes from conscious mind says, I request information from you, subconscious. I'm looking to find out what I want. And then the information comes up from the subconscious, and the conscious listens to it, pays attention to it. And that's how you sort of find out the answer to the question, I don't know what I want. Now, if you do know what you want, then what happens is, see, the autopilot, which is the subconscious, is not programmed to get what you want yet. So you got to talk to it into it. You got to convince it that it wants to move in the direction of what you want. So you create the target, you paint the bullseye, you know, give it exactly what to aim at, and then you launch it by creating a strong experience of having that thing. You close you daydream, pretend you have it. You imagine what you actually do want is, if you've already got it right now, you pretend you actually have it. You pretend before you tend. You pretend you actually have it, and then you imagine that over and over again, and it feels incredible. You feel like that wonderful feeling you're looking for. Do that over and over again. Program the mind. This is the direction we want to head. We want to aim toward that bullseye, toward not just what I want, but what I want the most. That's what we aim for. What do I want the most?
And to do this with your eyes closed while you're relaxed, in what brain researchers 100 years ago determined is a level of mind, Steve calls it narrow awake, They call it the alpha brainwave level. It's, to them, the most important of all. Alpha, that's where everything starts. Deeper levels of really powerful dreaming, intensive imagery, so-called hypnagogic imagery, where you dream at night. That's the theta level, and then there's a non-dream kind of a sleep called delta. And beta is the term for anything higher than narrow awake. The wide awake levels, all the way up higher and higher and higher into the upper 30s, where you're talking about panic attack or manic episodes, freaking out totally, high anxiety, for example. So alpha is the in-between place, in between asleep and awake, because the problem with asleep is you're unconscious, and wide awake, you're scattered. You got 8 or 10 different thoughts going on or more, as Steve was saying earlier. And so each idea, each thought, gets a small fraction of your attention. This concept is, as I said, ancient and well known, but not widely known. And that's why we think it's important to talk about all of these different systems where women and men close their eyes, as if there is a continuity here, because there really is. Now, I think we should talk about some of the differences, but remember, our primary intention is to get our arms around the nexus, which the golden thread, which is this idea of closing your eyes, relaxing, and accessing this middle brainwave level, narrow awake, we call it again, focused passion, the name of our website, Focused Passion, okay? Go into paradise, the name of the series. Find yourself where? In paradise. The kingdom is within. You've heard that. Now you know what it means. Take this literally. So you might think of prayer and meditation. I think that's a good place to start. Isn't it natural? Even if nobody ever said, be sure to close your eyes when you meditate. Be sure and close your eyes when you pray. Even if you weren't taught to do that, people naturally do it because they want to focus. They want to tune away from the distractions of the physical world. Why not do that when you're in a study situation in school or at work? You're writing a report, you're conceptualizing, you're solving problems. Steve just told you what the two big questions are that we have to deal with. The funny thing is the question that comes up when you open your eyes is, what do I do? And this is where most people get stuck in problem solving. They keep saying to themselves over and over again, gosh, I'm not sure what I should do. I don't know what to do. Hey, Steve, what do you think I should do? Well, what do you want me to do about it? I don't know what to do. That's because your eyes are open and your mind is scattered and you're ready to take action. But how can you take action? How can you know what to do if you don't know what you want? And if you don't know what you want, how could you have a plan to get there? You see? So what do I want and how do I get there? Have to precede, now I know what to do. And did anybody ever tell you that? I bet you got a degree. I bet you have advanced degrees. And nobody ever explained that to you. Well, it's called critical thinking, and we're just two of a lot of people that are working to get this into the school systems so that people become better problem solvers. One of the biases in school, of course, is that if you close your eyes, we got prayer in school, we can't have that. Or worse, hypnosis. But consider that this is a good place to begin to talk about these systems. Prayer and meditation and hypnosis and self-hypnosis. Steve, why don't we talk about some of the differences, since we've already identified that closing your eyes and relaxing, opening that reticular activating system is what they have in common.
Yeah, the two oldest, I guess, would be probably contemplation and prayer. Those are probably historically the two earliest names of this process. But the idea of going to a place where you tune out the external world, tune into the internal world, it takes you out of the do energy and puts you into the be energy. And that's one of the things that happens when you close your eyes. You move away from do and into be. Now, what you be with your eyes closed is a lot of things. You get to be what you currently are, to evaluate, to experience yourself, to take that amazing step back that we can take and observe ourselves from like a higher perspective, from a bigger picture way of seeing the whole totality of our lives and our interactions and stuff. That's an amazing thing that we can do in that state. We can actually be aware of the fact that we're not the thoughts and feelings that we're having. We're just aware of the fact that we're the awareness of the fact that we have those thoughts and feelings that are happening. And in this state, we can experience ourselves as we are. We can also begin the process of creating who we wish to become. That's how we create who we wish to become in the world of our eyes closed, where we imagine what we want as if we are it now. We imagine the future that we want to create as if we've created it. We imagine the bullseye as if we hit it, so that the mind knows on a totally unconscious level to do the things it needs to do to get moving in that direction, to move toward what we want. We close our eyes and we access creativity. We close our eyes and we access imagination, intuition, inspiration, innovation, ingenuity, insight, ideation, illumination, all the wonderful inductive thinking skills. We close our eyes, and all of a sudden the world of reality has faded to some extent, and we can focus on the world of creativity, the world that we want to create within. So when we close our eyes, we become smarter because we're not as distracted. We're out of this divided attention. Obviously, you're smarter when your attention is focused on one thing than when it's divided and going back and forth between a whole bunch of things. So we get smarter, and we also get more in touch with our feelings. We get, actually, sometimes for the first time, in touch with our feelings. Some people with their eyes open aren't at all in touch with their feelings, and only when they close their eyes and take a deep breath do they notice that they're upset, or they notice that they're angry, or they notice that they're feeling bewildered, or whatever it is that's going on for them. So closing our eyes gives us an opportunity to get in touch with what we feel, what we think, and to step back and observe those things, realize we're not those things, but we can observe the fact that we're having those thoughts and those feelings. We can choose our perceptions of the way of the reality we're experiencing. We can choose our response. We can choose to do what we did last time or do something a little different this time. It's quite remarkable what we can figure out, what we can imagine, what we can create with our eyes closed. I mean, virtually everything on the planet Earth, with the exception of those wonderful things Mother Nature has provided us, was the creation based on some woman or some man's daydream. Somebody thought it up. Somebody had a picture or an idea of it in their mind. And I can almost guarantee you that part of the time they were doing that, their eyes were closed, if not most of the time they were doing it, because when your eyes are open, there's too many distractions. When you close your eyes, you can really pinpoint your focus. You can really bring all of your attention and all of your passion to the thing that you're doing. And that closed eye process really is a matter of knowing that simply by having the intention and closing your eyes, the process is that your breathing slows down, your muscle tension releases, your anxiety abates, your confusion disappears. You become, with your eyes closed, relaxed and calm and very clear.
Prayer and meditation, contemplation, you called it, was introspection in that list of I words. Yeah, that's a great term also. The idea that, again, we use the mind's eye, we look inward when we close our eyes. Again, it's not an either or, because part of us is always looking inward, but when your eyes are open, which is obviously your waking day, your entire waking day, unless you deliberately close your eyes for some reason, they're open, and that stimulus tends to overwhelm the mind's eye. Just like all the thoughts and ideas and concepts and fears that are competing for your attention in the waking state tend to drown out that still small voice, the intuition. For those of us who think in a more auditory way than visual, the idea is to pull on all of that, and kinesthetic as well. And when your eyes are closed, prayer, meditation, contemplation, introspection, you're just better able to do that. Better communication between the conscious and the incredible powers of the subconscious mind. But there's more. How about getting hooked up to a machine called biofeedback. Why do biofeedback technicians tell us to close our eyes?
Yeah, very, very same process. By closing our eyes and being hooked up to these different biofeedback units, we get feedback of what's going on in our body. And what we get is that with our eyes closed, we move into rapid eye movement. When we imagine, daydream about stuff, our eyeballs go very quickly, and we get this breathing change and this muscular tension change. Lots of things happen when you close your eyes, and we can measure it. When you take and put stuff into the subconscious, consciously choose to program the subconscious. That's called hypnosis or self-hypnosis. That's called neuro-linguistic programming techniques. That's programming the mind. That's making the conscious mind deciding what you want to do or be and telling the subconscious to do it. All those other things, the introspection, the meditation, the prayer. Well, prayer goes both ways. Some people pray by telling God what they want. Other people pray by asking and listening for what they want.
Not many. I don't think too many listen. They want a big sign. They can see, like lightning and rainbows, and they want synchronicities or coincidences or something they can witness with their eyes open. Again, I think people who pray and then listen are meditators. I think they're the listeners.
Yeah. Listening really is the meditation aspect of it. The hypnosis side is the putting stuff in. The meditation side is sort of letting stuff out. They're both the same state. It's just what's the intention? Why are you doing this? Are you trying to find out about you, or are you trying to recreate you? Discovery, development. There's growth and understanding. One of the things that's most important though about this when you close your eyes thing and move from being ego-based, out there, danger, watching out for danger, being worried and nervous and anxious and fearful, and we move into this feeling safe place, is that the ego voice quiets down and goes away and steps into abeyance, steps into the background, and the voice that you hear, the primary voice that comes through, is that whisper of intuition, that whisper of love, that whisper of positivity and upbeat happiness, and all that stuff comes through when you feel safe. That's the voice that's quieter, but it's there, deeper. And when you get the surface stuff out of the way and you feel safe, that voice comes through. So when you ask yourself, what do I want the most? Because what do I want is just too nebulous. When you ask yourself, what do I want the most? Then that mind, that gentle voice, that whispering intuition voice can say, what really would make you feel the most fulfilled was if you pursued this. Really, here's your talent. And when you can find how your talent meets some human need out there, that's your vocation. That's what Aristotle said. Find how that whispering voice inside of you, it's the part that knows who you are and what you can do and what you can be. And so when you quiet down, you can hear that voice. So when you're asking, then you're going to hear a voice that comes from love, comes from joy. When you're telling, when you're programming your mind, when your conscious mind is directing the subconscious by imagining what you do want, as if you've already got it over and over again with great passion, when you do that, then you can choose the voice, and you can choose to put excitement and enthusiasm and intensity and lots of passion into the voice. Because where the words that you tell yourself, the pictures that you see, those are the steering wheel. It's the passion, that's the emotion, that's the gas pedal that drives it home, that says to the mind, yeah, that's where you want to go, that's the target, but this is how important it is that we head in that direction now.
Yeah, I think this unfolded in a nice order, because now as we go into the audio journey, we're talking about the fact that when we close our eyes, take a few slow, deep breaths, turn your breathing then over to autopilot again, but it's now at a slower, more natural rate. Feel safe and relaxed. That reticular activating system opens, but it's a two-way street. So we got to really rework that model I used of opening the faucet, because the water only goes one way. It's more like a dimmer, actually. Wouldn't that be a better allegory, like a dimmer on a light? Because electricity is AC. It alternates 60 times a second. It reverses and goes back and forth. The mind does that. It's listening and it's telling, right? Conscious mind can listen to the subconscious. Conscious mind can make suggestions, instruction sets, commands, imperative statements. I will do this. I'm going to get better at this. I'm determined to learn this task, this duty. I'm going to do this as a career. To exercise our will, our volition, These are suggestions, are they not, to the subconscious mind? And if that system is open, if our eyes are closed and we're relaxed, well, they come in with more power, just like we're more receptive to what comes out.
But one of the cool things about the subconscious mind is it doesn't understand time. So when you leave a suggestion open-ended, like I'm going to do something one day, it doesn't know when. So you have to imagine what you want as if you've already got it right now. Not I'm going to do it, but I've done it. I've got it. It's a fait accompli. It's a done deal. That's the cool thing. If you imagine you're going to get something, as most people do, they don't imagine they already have it because that feels like a lie, like they don't really have it. So they imagine they're going to have it. But then the mind thinks, okay, the goal is to going to have it. the goal is to be close there, but not actually get there. No, the mind has to see that the goal is actually to have this thing, to imagine what you want as if you've already got it now. And once you do that, then the mind wakes up from that experience, and because the subconscious part doesn't know real from imaginary, it really thought it did have it, and you wake up and you realize you don't actually have it. That's where the motivation comes from, to do what you need to do to get it, So not I'm going to have it, but I have it now.
Slowly I turn, step by step, inch by inch, where the steps become the goal, and the brain says, aren't I doing a good job? I'm giving you exactly what you want. You took another step. But again, we don't know where we're going. We don't know what we want. We're not sure what to do. This is the importance of conceptualizing in the mind's eye. And as Steve says, make it now. Trick the subconscious into thinking we've already got it. It's quite remarkable the way the universe will conspire to support you, especially when you're passionate about it, when you really, really care. You see, it's more than just an intellectual or mental activity to know what you want, know what you need to do to move in that direction, and to feel like you've already got it. See, that's the force behind the energy. It's like the thought is the energy, but that's the amperage, but the voltage or the push, the force, the pressure behind it, that's the passion. That's focused passion. How much do you care? How excited can you get? And Steve's nailing it here. It's like, oh boy, I already got it. What? It might be that job. It might be a high score on the SATs. It might be getting into law school. It could be any one of a number of things. When you feel like, talk about high self-esteem and confidence, when you feel like you've already got it, the imagination goes, okay, we can do that, right? In fact, let's practice that right now. Whether you want to think of this as contemplation or introspection, meditation or a prayer-like state, maybe you've done biofeedback, maybe you've practiced self-hypnosis or been to a hypnotherapist, or you took a bunch of yoga classes. Some people learn a closed-eye process in phys ed, in gym class.
And usually the last thing you do in a yoga class is they have you close your eyes and sort of meditate.
Really, the whole exercise, the asanas and the stretching in yoga is a preparation for yoga, for union, for, again, opening yourself to create a communion or a union with your spiritual source, where the energy, the life force, the juice really comes from. You don't even have to think of this in a religious sense.
Not at all. But it feels right. It just feels right inside of us to do it. And so let's go where this program has been inevitably taking us. This closed-eye process starts by closing your eyes.
Close your eyes. Get comfortable, feel safe and relaxed. You can slowly scan your body with your awareness and actually feel the letting go in the muscles of your body. You can imagine arteries and veins and capillaries slowly dilating as the muscles they run through relax. And you can consider that nervous energy moves in a similar way with less resistance as you become more relaxed with your eyes closed and more open and more receptive.
And more relaxed. So when is it that you close your eyes? It's to go to sleep or take a nap, or sometimes when you're sitting down with a pet inside your lap. But most of the time during the day, your eyes are open wide, and so many things you have to do, so many things you must decide. But just for a few moments to find a place to close your eyes and see that you don't have to always do all the time. There's room and space to be. So you close your eyes and your mind slows down and you feel more solidly connected to the ground, and you feel calm and focused and very clear, and you know that it's now, and you know that you're here. When you close your eyes, your mind can say, I'm safe. It's okay to go away from the external stimulus that I've been focused on, and now I can move to a place I'm quite fond of going to. That place of imagination. That wonderful place of imagination that lives when we close our eyes deep inside of me and you.
And so you relax even more. Again, with your eyes still closed, really beginning to enjoy the warm and wonderful feeling of relaxation. You let go a little more. And through the relaxation, your mind becomes even more focused. You begin to really understand how it feels to concentrate. It feels safe. Concentration, paying attention, focusing your passion, narrow, awake. These are relaxation skills. And you can sit open and receptive. You could just watch your mental drift from a mindful and detached point of view, kind of an elevated, looking down on your thoughts point of view. Or you could ask yourself a question, something important that's happening in your daily life and affairs, and ruminate. Allow the mind to work on it, and you from a mindful place watch the mind offering responses to this dilemma, this problem, this need for a goal. It's fascinating. In fact, feel the impact of that word, fascination, and feel strongly about your ability to listen to and view, to receive inspiration intuitively from the imagination. And know that it's a two-way street. You can make positive affirmations, sets of instructions, commands, if you want, imperative statements to yourself. Simply exercise your volition. There's a saying, you may know, chew your food well. If you don't, who will? Well, that means you're in charge of your self-esteem, your self-image, your self-confidence. And, you know, the one person you can't jive and BS and fool with any regularity anyway is yourself. So from the deepest place of honesty and integrity and respect for truth with a capital T, you talk to yourself. The subconscious is listening. And the communication lines are more open. There's much less resistance in both directions when your eyes are closed and you feel safe and relaxed.
So imagine yourself, during the course of your day, finding a place to close your eyes and say, just for a few moments, go away from all this stimulus and stress and go inside to a peaceful place where you're free of all that duress. So think about how you can close your eyes frequently in your day. Maybe every time you sit yourself down or every time your mind goes away, take a moment, close your eyes before you bring yourself back. Just a few moments in that eyes closed place gets you focused and back on track. So I close my eyes every time I take a drink of water. It's just something I always do. I take a drink and close my eyes, and then my mind knows what to do. It takes me off to my peaceful place, my paradise inside, and I can have access to all of my faculties, and I now know where the answers reside. And it's a wonderful place, and it's easy to see that something must happen for you to just be, not do. So you got to close your eyes and get that part through so you can go inside and just let yourself be in this quieter place. Not reality, but this imagination land. It's a better world because it can be whatever you choose. Your mind, with your eyes closed, is quite a powerful tool for you to use.
And so bring with you, as you prepare to open your eyes, in just a moment, wide awake, feeling fine, rested and energized, just bring with you the peace, the ease, the elegance of how it feels to be so nicely relaxed with your eyes closed. But you're going to effortlessly bring this feeling with you as you prepare to open your eyes, wide awake. Remembering now what you'll see in a few moments, the room in which you're sitting, which way you're faced. Remembering now as you take a nice, slow, deep breath, filling your lungs, hold for just a moment, and as you begin to exhale, open your eyes wide awake, alert, rested, refreshed, back in the room, all energized and recharged and feeling better than before.
You know, you can use this closed eye process for like 20 minutes at a time or 20 seconds at a time or virtually anything in between. So, you know, during the course of your day, you always close your eyes to go to sleep, and some people close their eyes to take a nap. But I think wise people close their eyes for other reasons besides that, like to find out what do I want and to program the mind to begin the journey toward getting it. So for lots and lots of reasons, stress management, creativity enhancement, access to greater intelligence, find yourself opportunities in the course of your day to close your eyes, if only for a few moments, just to get away from the do for a little bit here and move into the be.
I think it's Edgar Allan Poe who wrote once, people who dream when they sleep are creative people, and this is a good thing. But people who dream when they're awake are dangerous, subversive people who are looking to change the whole order of things, usually for the better, of course, because if you don't want things to get better, if you want to hurt somebody or wish for their demise, that's all full of fear, and you're never going to get safe and relaxed, and you won't trust yourself enough to close your eyes. This is a love place. It's not just peace. It's capital L love. I don't mean romance or emotional love. I'm talking about the peace of mind that comes with this kind of harmony or even union. I mean, what is peace? More certainly than the absence of war and violence and conflict. It's a state of expanded awareness. It's a very literally creative level of mind. And it reveals the first question, who am I? We've already talked about what do I want, what do I do to get it, and yet who am I underlies all of this stuff. That's the big question. What is this self? And then you go on to more spiritual questions about what is the relationship of this self to everything else in the universe. But to know thyself is central to the closed eye process. And this is a great program to send to your friends. Use that gadget at focusedpassion.com. You may be sending these programs into your podcast folder, your aggregator or podcatcher, and not logging in. But if you go back there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of free articles and white papers, and also the Send One to a Friend gadget. It's right below the built-in player when you use your email and password to log in at focusedpassion.com. The built-in player is there, and for no additional charge whatsoever. We'll send it. Just give us an email and a name. We'll send this program or any other you'd like to friends that you think would really enjoy it. So join us next week for the series, Finding Yourself in Paradise at focusedpassion.com. And for Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner. Be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. Aloha from Maui.